Hey fam, happy Wednesday. We're only 2 days from the weekend. Congrats on making this far. Let's take a look straight at today and how to make it actual. And today we're going to try to keep it really focused on something maybe positive and a little more optimistic and a little more accessible because it can be so difficult trying to have deep conversations with normal people who aren't as plugged into the political side of things. So I think thanks to the incredible Richard Wolff, we have an easy pathway there today. So Richard Wolff always puts out good content. Democracy Watch, he does really good work. I always recommend his channel. One of the things he brought up most recently was how when you take a look at the bubonic plague and how it may have led to part of the collapse of feudalism, and just as COVID-19 hopefully might lead to the collapse of capitalism, he found this piece by a Cambridge professor called Plagues and Empires by John Rapley, and I'll put a link in the description here. But the quick summary is that a lot of people say just because there's a plague or a traumatic event, it leads to the collapse of that organization or that society or that way of the empire. And so as much as I myself and maybe other people were excited by COVID leading to the end of our servitude, it does not always mean that that's the case. It does depend on how the system and how the empire has structured itself. And in a lot of cases, as the report details, civilizations have actually come out stronger. Feudalism has come out stronger after having to face a plague or some type of great trauma. One of the things that is exciting, though, is when we take a look at COVID-19, thanks to Richard Wolff, China has done so incredibly well. We take a look at how socialist countries have handled the pandemic, and they have protected their people. They have rebounded quickly. They have relied on science and doctors and good data and have come out much further ahead than maybe they went into the pandemic. Whereas on the West, we are still struggling with it mightily. In Canada and the US, it's been brutal on so many fronts and continues to decline and get worse. And we aren't even considering what's going to happen when it comes to the recovery and having to fight against the capitalists who will surely try to impose austerity on us. So we have so much to deal with on the West here. And one of the things that Wolff points out that I think we can make really actionable is that what capitalism has done since the 70s is really relied on neoliberalism. And that has created a wedge between private interests and public interests. And it's basically said, everything in the government can't be trusted. We need to stop paying taxes. We need to stop the money-hungry government from providing services. We need to fight against the government. And that has created such distrust and such ill will between the people and the government that serves us that people cannot be counted on to work in tandem with the government to recover from this pandemic. And that gives us as revolutionaries a really simple wedge to exaggerate that frustration, to help push people towards more revolutionary thought. Just asking people simple things through the fault lines that capitalism has already created. Ask people why they're frustrated with the government. What specific things is the government not doing for you? Try to really emphasize and exaggerate those frustrations. When you're organizing, it's like 80% listening, 20% talking, and if you feel like you aren't talking enough, you're talking the exact right amount. And I think that's a really important time because not everybody is plugged into politics. We're in the middle of an election. Liberals just dropped their campaign or their platform, and it was completely useless and garbage, and probably nobody's even going to read it. And that's totally fine. So ask people what they're frustrated about, what they're angry about, and what they think we can do better. And we can point them to China and talk about how the Chinese economic recovery has been so great. Even Vietnam has done relatively well. We can talk a little bit about Cuba, but I would say Cuba's dealing with so much propaganda and attacks right now by various forces for various means that it might not be best to raise Cuba. They're also having a crushing economic sanctions right now, but they have done such a good job in terms of literacy programs in Canada. They send out doctors around the world and have developed multiple vaccines. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to look to the weaknesses that capitalism has created within its own system and try to push on those a little bit to try to increase people's interest in a better way of life, a freer way of life, and where possible, talk to them about what our frustrations are and why we choose capitalism or why we choose socialism. We might not want to say socialism if there's somebody who's not particularly aware or cognizant of the movement, but it's a really simple way to get involved, and it's a really easy thing to do because it's not political. You're just asking, what don't you like about the government as capitalism, neoliberalism has geared us to do for the past however many decades. And this hopefully leads towards the bigger conversations because worse days are coming. We'll take a quick look here at some of the stories we're talking about when it comes to famine. So across Canada right now, we've seen prices go up considerably. Usually the price hikes have come between about 10 to 15% of prices for groceries. And we've seen that the projections for harvest are dropping dramatically. We're looking at 35% below what was forecast for the previous year, 24% less canola, 35% less wheat, 27% less oat production. That's barley. 32% less oats. So we're seeing a dramatic kind of collapse in grains. Of course, with that, beef prices are going to rise. So we're going to see people, unfortunately, who have a harder time with their living situation, facing higher prices for goods and services. And we do see famines coming increasingly as climate change continues to fuck us over. So I think, again, before we get to the deep conversations about how our economic system has put us in such a dangerous and precarious situation, we can have these simple conversations, thanks to Richard Wolff pointing out this article, and talk to people about what they're frustrated, and know that they have someone who's going to be a friend, and someone who's going to listen without judgment, and somebody who's going to encourage them to express their best ideas. And as they continue to walk along that journey with us and expressing themselves and trying to find a better way, we can very pleasantly and friendly guide them towards socialism and the science of a better world. But that is probably a better, more complicated conversation for another day. I hope something here might be useful. I want to invite you, Friday, we're going to be doing our election stream again live at 8 p.m. Eastern, and it's on twitch.tv/MassesUTD or Masses United, and look forward to seeing you there. But either way, I'm sending you love and solidarity. Have a great week. Peace. They bullied and oppressed us, but still our union grows. And we're going to find a way, boys, for shorter hours and better pay, boys. Yes, we're going to win the day, boys. Where the Fraser River flows.